So my name is Diamond Leone, and this is my very first podcast. And oh my gosh, let me just tell you that if there is something that you've been wanting to start, an idea, a project, anything, a business idea, maybe a creative project, anything, but you have found it hard to get started, this is the podcast for you. And I'm going to tell you why. I have been wanting to start a podcast for a very long time, and I've always just come up with, these mental excuses in my mind, like, I just can't figure it out. I don't know what mic to buy. I don't know what software to record on. How do I edit it? I mean, my mind literally was going in a million different directions to tell me why it wouldn't work, okay? So let me tell you what I did. I had this trip planned to Hawaii. I knew it was going to be a whirlwind trip. I was going to be, sort of vlogging about it, if you will, in my Instagram stories, because the two followers that I have, they really love that content. Anyway, I have a couple more than that, but you get the point. So, but everyone's got to start somewhere, okay? And I'm literally just starting from scratch with so many different things, and I threw this podcast equipment in my suitcase, and I was like, you know what? I don't know how to start a podcast, but I'm going to figure it out. And I'm literally about 30 minutes away from having to check out of my hotel room. They're going to throw me out of here, but this was the only time that I had to do this. Well, that's not true. I made a bunch of excuses and did a bunch of other stuff. But anyway, I was determined to get this podcast recorded. And the reason that it was such a burning desire for me is because I had the equipment here. I lugged it here. It was heavy. It made my suitcase overweight. In essence, what I did was I burned the bridge or the boat. They say when you want to take the island, you have to burn the boat, meaning there's no turning back. And that's kind of how I felt with this podcast. I knew that I needed to do that in order to really just come out of my comfort zone and stop procrastinating and just get this done. So I'm going to take a picture of this little setup that I have here. I'm on the balcony of my hotel because I really wanted to show you guys this beautiful view. But I literally dragged a table and out of my hotel room to give me the height that I needed for the monitor. I mean, it's just all jerry-rigged up here. But my point is I started. And that is the message for this podcast, this very first podcast in a series of what will hopefully be a whole bunch more podcasts. But I thought, who better or what better to talk about than, with overcoming fear than to talk about this very topic of me having a fear around starting this podcast. Procrastination is literally just a form of fear of failure, okay? Let me repeat that again. Procrastination is a form of fear of failure. Our mind always defaults to, us not being good enough, or what if no one will listen, or all the negative scenarios you can think of with regard to your project, those are the scenarios that your brain is going to come up with first. So, I know I'm talking kind of fast because I really want this to be a short podcast. I just want it to be something where you can get in, get out, and get on with your day, but that it will inspire you, that you will say, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. So maybe it's not a podcast for you. Maybe it's, starting the journey of writing a book. Maybe it's wanting to, start a business. Or maybe it's just wanting to offer a type of service to the public, but you've got all these ideas and they're just kind of all floating around in your mind and you're not sure where to start. Well, I want to make this podcast, an inspiration for you. So the first thing that I would recommend is that write out what it is that you want to do, okay? And then write out every single step that you can think of that you might need to get closer to achieving that goal, to getting started with that thing, right? Then try to prioritize them, and then take that very first item that's on your list and just do that. Like, don't even think about it, just do it. For example, for this podcast, I knew that obviously I needed to order the equipment. Okay, check, got that ordered. Obviously I needed to, figure out what topics I was going to talk about. Well, we'll talk about that later, but I literally was like, you know what, I'm going to make my first podcast about overcoming fear, okay, of getting started doing that thing. So you're kind of like living it with me. And I don't know, I think that's what's so inspirational about this. because I would have loved to listen to someone, someone's podcast about starting a podcast about, hey, this is my first podcast and I tripped over myself and tripped over everything and figured this out, and you can too, and here's what I did. So just in case starting a podcast is one of the things that you are thinking of doing, I can leave a link if that's possible. I have to figure that part out. How do you upload this thing? I'll figure it all out. Don't you worry, because if you're listening to this, that means I figured it out. But I'm going to leave a link of what podcast equipment I ordered. It's really simple. It's just this Yeti mic and then, some headphones from Amazon. Actually, both of these things came from Amazon. And then I'm recording this through QuickTime Player, which is on my MacBook Pro. It comes with the MacBook Pro. And then I'm going to export it, audio only, and then from there I can take the audio. What do you guys see? I'm using the height of a T, like a little, I don't know what you call this, like a little snack thing that the hotel. So it just opened. The wind blew. It just opened. All the stuff came flying out. Anyway, back to my equipment. So I ordered this stuff on Amazon, and then. Oh yeah, I'm going to export the file to, audio only, and then you can upload it to anchor.fm. That's what I'm told. I'll figure it out. Again, if you're listening to this, then I figured it out. So I will have those little steps for you. But my point is, it's just getting started, right? I did not have all this figured out when I got here, but I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw the equipment in my suitcase. It made my suitcase overweight, by the way. But again, it's burning the boat. It's like if you want to take the island, you have to burn the boat. The other point that I really want to make for you guys is, the joy, the sugar, if you will, is always going to be in the process, in the doing of something. It's not the destination, it's not the end result. Although that's nice, we all want to check things off our list, or we all want to have that accomplishment of having done something. But the truth is that the real fulfillment comes in the journey, because the journey is where you grow, right? So as you're figuring your thing out, whatever that is, starting a business, a podcast, writing a book, whatever it is, it's the process of learning it all, and challenging yourself every day to show up in that space, and to learn it for yourself. It's those smaller milestones along the way, I think, that mean so much more to us than the actual finishing of something. So I want you to have patience with yourself. Whatever it is that you're trying to start or do or create, just know that first and foremost, you have to start somewhere. Our brains want to come up with a whole bunch of excuses, right, as to why we can't do something. But the truth is, you can do anything that you put your mind to, okay? So you just want to start by writing your list of all the actionable steps for that thing you're trying to create, and then just take that first step, that first item that's on your list, and do that thing, okay? And then when you're done with that, do the next thing, and before you know it, you'll be closer. You'll be well on your journey of getting this thing off the ground. So anyway, that's really what I wanted to talk about today, is to just get started, to overcome that fear, burn the boat, so that there's no procrastinating anymore. You've got to do it. So listen, I would love for you guys to just, it's my very first podcast. Leave a little review if you don't mind, of what you thought of it, and because I'd love to hear from you. And if there's any topics that you'd like for me to talk about, please leave that as well. If there's a way for that, again, I don't know if you can leave comments on these things or not, but if there is, I would love to hear what you have to say. And yeah, this is my very first podcast coming to you from Oahu, Hawaii. And I've had a great time on this island. If you guys want to check out my adventures here this past week, it is in the highlight reel of my Instagram, which is the Diamond Leone, THE Diamond Leone, my name. And yeah, go check that out. Hawaii is a beautiful place, and oh my gosh, I mean, now it's even more special to me because my very first podcast was recorded here. So guys, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for listening here, for these 10 minutes of your time. And I hope that I've inspired you, because I did not have any of this figured out, and I just literally made up my mind that I was burning those boats and I was going to do it. And that's really what I want for you. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, I want you to make that list, get those steps lined up, and do the first step, then the next step, and burn the boats, and get going. And I'd love to support you. Reach out to me, let me know what you're doing, and I'd love to support you guys. Thank you so much for watching this first podcast, and have an amazing day.